everybody, this is Diane. Hello and welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell, and you don't have to hold me to anything. I said what I said.
All right, we are podcasting Fear the Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 10, Handle with Care. I think it's my turn. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like that's just life right now. Just handle with care.
Well, I'm going to explain my rating in a minute and you'll understand a little more.
Okay.
I mean, you'll get it anyway. Yeah, I know you do. So my rating was 3 Traveling Wilbury songs out of 5.
Yay!
Yeah, and so I was never a giant Traveling Wilburys fan, and when they overused the Traveling Wilburys song they did last season, I was like, meh. But I really liked this song, and it made me appreciate this song a lot more.
You know, I did too. And again, this is why I get most of my music from rando places like soundtracks, because, you know, somebody has curated this for our viewing, so it's got to be good.
You know, I go back to, and I know I've said this on Biters before, I think that season 4 of Walking Dead was the best in terms of soundtrack. They have never managed to reach that pinnacle with any of the episodes or series since that time, but I'll give them rejuvenating the Traveling Wilburys for me. And Arsonist's Lullaby by Hozier, which I think I probably said it wrong, is in I want to say season 6, and that's one of my favorite songs.
Yes, I like that. Is like one of the 16 songs that I just kind of loop through on repeat. You know, your app, whatever you use, will cycle through a soundtrack curated based on your analytics. But honestly, we're all just skipping to our favorite songs, which is, 10 to 20 songs. So
speaking of which, did you listen to that song, Seeing Blind?
No.
I sent it to you and you didn't listen. It's very sweet.
Huh. I'll have to go back through
it's not La Vie en Rose sweet, but it's sweet.
Okay. I ran into one the other day that made me think of you too. Now I gotta go find it.
Well, I hope it's a love song.
It's not.
Oh, well, there we are. So don't bother sending it to me right now.
Boo, you're no fun.
You're gonna make me spew cold coffee if you're not careful.
So we rated it on a similar rank, but mine was 3.8 executive dysfunctions. The other ED.
Oh my god, you rated it much higher than I did. I can't believe you liked it this much.
We'll talk about it. I like Daniel.
I like Daniel, yeah. But even Daniel couldn't redeem this episode.
We'll talk about it.
All right. So I've got just a couple of numbers. The numbers for Things Left to Do, which was last week's episode, 1.12 million same-day views. The only episode that was lower was Damage from the Inside. So actually bad. It's been dropping all season long. I mean, it was 1.59 million views for The End is the Beginning, which was 6.1, and now it's 1.12. And I have a feeling this one's going to be even lower.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely see that. I feel like the rating on IMDb went up. It's an 8.8 with 918 reviews.
I had 8.3. Oh, you're talking 8.8 for last episode. I was going to say it's 8.3 for this episode.
Yep.
Which I still think is too high.
I was going to say, I feel like they all start out either 8.1 or 8.3, and then they either go up or down from there. I think the people who automatically rate it, on Sundays, all just kind of rate them about the same.
This was not a good episode. All right.
It was not a great episode.
So the title came from the Traveling Wilburys song, Handle with Care. I will be honest and say that the episode wrap up with the showrunners at the end started rambling on about where else they felt like Handle with Care was an important part of the title, and I was like, not gonna watch it. And really, frankly, if there's a Talking Dead tonight, not gonna watch that either.
No, there wasn't. And I do have a little bit of a rant about AMC Plus. Normally I can just search on the little search function on Sling for Fear the Walking Dead, and I'm able to get the episode early. But now I have to go to the channel AMC Plus, and I have to scroll over 300 movies and shows and go to Fear the Walking Dead, click on it, scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'm finally able to get the episode early. Otherwise I have to wait till 5 p.m. Alaska Standard Time. And I'm just like, they're making it more difficult. What's the point of having it?
That's weird. I don't have difficulty accessing it on Amazon.
Maybe I'll try. Well, I subscribe. Can I get AMC Plus through Amazon? Because I already have it through Sling.
I mean, I'm assuming that AMC Plus would be like, you want 2 memberships to AMC Plus? Great.
No, I don't want 2 memberships. I want to be able to sign in from either place.
Yeah, no, you can't. I
want front door and back door access.
I don't think that's a thing. I don't think it is. I think you can pay Amazon, and Amazon will be like, great, this is part of your Amazon account, and thank you for more money. That's the way it's going to be. So yeah, you have to pick one or the other if you don't want to pay for both.
Technology, you were supposed to make my life easier.
So I don't have anything other than Handle with Care as the Traveling Wilburys song, because I didn't really feel like there was anything else in this episode that made me go, oh, handle me with care.
Yeah, there, like you said, there was a rambling explanation, but I feel like that's just kind of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So,
and I'm sorry, I just don't want to hear from these showrunners, because again, we've had one great episode this season, maybe 2.
Yeah. I really liked Honey, and then of course The Door.
Right.
The episode
and that's about what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Our writers are Ashley Cardiff and David Johnson, not to be confused with David Leslie McGoldrick Johnson. So this David Johnson actually has gone by Dave Johnson in the past, 2 totally different guys. Ashley Cardiff has been a writer for 4 episodes. She's been an executive story editor for a total of 16. She also worked on a series called Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, because I know we've talked about her before.
Yeah.
The other episodes that she worked on for Fear were Honey, which you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Leave What You Don't, which was okay, and Humbug's Gulch, which had that terrible trick shot that was so lame. So I'm kind of not loving Ashley Cardiff as a writer. Dave Johnson has been a writer on 4 Fear episodes. He's been a staff writer for 16, and he's been a story editor for 10. He wrote also The Key, Today and Tomorrow, and Channel 4. And I remember that Channel 4 was awful.
Yeah, I remember specifically not liking that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he has been a writer on the TV show The Following, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass because I really liked The Following, and I think it got canceled before its time.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I thought of you, I thought of us, I thought of the Murderinos, because it's about a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. And a cult serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's got Kevin Bacon in it.
Mm-hmm.
Our director, I couldn't really find anything about our director. So her name was Heather Capiello. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I found someone in IMDb with the same name, and it shows her as being an award-winning director of film, television, theater. But then it doesn't, she's not credited for this episode.
I was just going to say, where are you finding her as the director?
I honestly, so I looked her up in IMDb after I found the name on Wikipedia associated with this episode of Fear the Walking Dead.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not allowed to put in your own entries. I'm just saying.
So I don't have a lot about her. If she is in fact the same person that they mention in IMDb, she has written for Criminal Minds, Blue Bloods, and a horror series called Freakish that's on Hulu.
I might have to check that out. I don't even know what it's about, but it already sounds great.
I'm trying to find it, like, anywhere in what's... it looks like if it's the same person, she has done some script supervision for 6 Feet Under. Freakish. So it was a 2016 series on Hulu, so... and it looks like it had 2 seasons. A group of high schoolers struggle against predatory mutants who have taken over their town after a chemical plant meltdown.
It sounds delightfully grade B.
God.
And I don't recognize any of the cast in it.
Okay, well, you let me know what you find out. I am assuming this is the same Heather, but we don't know that for sure. And then we decided we're not doing a featured cast because there was really nobody new.
Not really, no. Yeah. I kind of thankfully that there was nobody new, but also, yeah, no featured cast member this week.
So, Biters, Marna and I are pretty convinced that this is going to be the shortest Biters episode ever.
Yeah, I think so. Which means we'll ramble on forever.
Whisperer's Corner was heavily clickbaity, not clickbaity. So digital...
Well, then it'll be very quick.
Right, there you go. So Digital Spy had an article that I clicked on which promised that they would give the filming dates for the first Rick Grimes movie, which I feel like we've been waiting for forever. And they're saying this spring, maybe. I'm like, well, it's the end of April and it's already like past spring.
Do you feel like the market's gonna cool before they get these things out? Like, it's kind of like going to a great restaurant and being like, wow, we got our drinks so early and the waitress took our order really fast, and then you wait like 2 hours
for dinner,
for an entree. Yeah, like, yeah. And you're just like, no, well, like, if just give us our check. We're done.
I kind of fear for Walking Dead that that's what's going to happen, but
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah. Like, can I get this to go?
So Monsters and Critics also was quite clickbaity. It was an article about who's going to be in CRM from the original series. Well, and they're talking about CRM's portrayal in World Beyond. And then I clicked on it and it was like, oh, maybe Isabel, but there's a possibility it might be Madison.
Oh, God.
And I'm like,
no.
Oh, really? Are you kidding me? It's probably Isabel.
Yeah.
Okay, this one was not so clickbaity. This one might actually bear fruit. So, guess who they're saying the new big bad in Fear might be?
So I might be looking at the same article as you right now. It's from Uproxx.
You tell me, because I didn't keep it open. I just wrote notes, so I don't know where it was from. I didn't write it down.
Okay, so Uproxx has an article right now that says the new big bad on Fear the Walking Dead will be somebody from John Dory's past.
Yes, it's the same article then.
Okay. So I'm not taking the time to read the article while we're online, so
go
ahead and say who it is.
So they're basically saying that it's potentially the serial killer that John Dory's dad put in prison.
Oh. Huh.
And it sounds like the serial killer was actually a mortician who went kind of crazy, so that could be kind of cool.
Oh, and that would be probably John Glover's role.
Right, it is going to be John Glover. But knowing the showrunners, they'll probably jack it up, so... Let's see. Another thing that I found is that Skydance, which I guess is the new Skybound, I'm not really sure, is releasing a thing called Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Aftershock, which is a virtual reality title that you can play on Oculus.
You know, I have been seeing people play games on Oculus on TikTok, and I'm fascinated. Like,
oh my God, you and Rob, my TikTok curators. So
and
funny.
I also have a friend who has Oculus and is now playing games, and it looks amazing. Like, I would love to try it, but like, I raked my entire backyard of all of the poopy last Friday, and then I rearranged my garage this weekend. I don't have the energy to do virtual reality games.
I want to say that Jason Kabasi from Walking Dead cast either had an Oculus or was trialing an Oculus at one point. I mean, this was a few years ago when they were, like, really, really, really new.
Right.
But...
yeah, I barely had the energy to chop the fruit for my sangria today.
oh, God. Yes, biters. Marnell is drinking her fruits and vegetables, and I'm eating carbs. And drinking energy drinks. We're pathetic.
This is adults now.
Okay, another article that I pulled up. Where is Wendell? So,
see, hashtag where's chill.
It pointed out that we haven't seen Wendell since Bury Her Next to Jasper's Leg when Tanktown blew up.
They did make mention of him this episode, I do have to say.
They did. So Sarah basically said, hey, can I borrow the MRAP? Because I could take Wendell along with me if I could borrow the MRAP.
And their excuse for not letting her take the MRAP to take Wendell was really lame.
Especially when they gave it to Morgan, like, 10 minutes later in the episode.
Right?
Which we're going to get into the whole medical equipment thing because that ticked me off.
I don't even want to get into that.
we're gonna get into it. Okay, the only other thing that I had in Whisperer's Corner was the Eric Kane article. I found it. It doesn't look like Paul Tassi has written one about this episode yet, if he's going to. And Eric Kane, I will agree with this. Steve will agree with this. I suspect you will as well. Too many characters and too few that we care about. They need to thin the herd.
But I do have to disagree with him. He's getting on nurses again.
Oh my God. So I wrote that down and I have mixed feelings. So he was basically like, look, I think nurses are great, but legit June can't do everything that they say she can, which I actually agree with that to a certain point. Like I was like, when she was sitting there counseling Daniel, I was like, she's not a therapist. And then he said in his article something like, she's not a therapist. And I was like, exactly. Nurses can be very compassionate and good listeners. She's not a therapist.
In normal real life, I would have to agree with you, but like, who else are we turning to for this? She is the most medical professional that we have. So I'm just going to have to defer to her better judgment. You know, like, what did everyone else do before the apocalypse? Like, okay, John Dory was a sheriff. Like, what did Morgan do? Do we remember what Morgan did? I don't know.
I don't even remember. Isn't that funny? I remember he had a kid.
Yeah. Like, Cheeseman got to be a therapist post-apocalyptic, so, like, why not June?
Well, because he was actually, like, an LCSW or somebody like that in the prison system before. So he actually was honestly, like, still who he was.
Okay, but did we,
and it was Eastman, not Cheeseman, but I get it.
Oh, yeah. And I call him Cheeseman because he was trying to make the cheese.
Right.
Yeah, and was failing at it terribly.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love. Because cheese is difficult to make. But he like, stitch up Morgan or nurse him back to health or something. And we weren't
sure he did. Yeah.
We weren't saying psychologists can't be, you know, caregivers or first responders. I don't know. I just think June is the closest thing we've got, and nobody was blinking an eye when the veterinarian was doing major surgery on a 6-year-old. So.
Okay, but veterinarians do major surgery all the time. I will reflect that. ICU nurses don't do major surgery, and June's been doing some pretty major surgery.
Okay, her attempting the appendectomy.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
When he died, I was like, okay, real life. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Eric Kane actually made a reference that she's like Claire in Outlander, which that was something that I loved, but also something that I thought was really ridiculous in the Outlander books, which is basically, yeah, Claire can do anything. I mean, she does, when she comes back to the future, become a doctor and a surgeon, so she does eventually get the training for what she's doing. But yeah, as a nurse, as a World War II nurse, she is basically doing everything.
I was going to say, I don't think that knowledge is retroactive, even with time travel.
Right. All right, I got nothing else for Whisperer's Corners. I very briefly have something for housekeeping. So I just want to let people know that I posted The Real Housewives today. Marnell and I reviewed the 2015 Academy Award winner Spotlight, which was very good. Thank you, Marnell, for suggesting it. Tell me again what we're podcasting this week for Real Housewives, and I will write it down this time because I legit cannot remember again.
The Notorious RBG.
Oh my god. Okay, I wrote it down. I just found where I wrote it down. Oh my god, I'm ridiculous. And I'm even though I've written it down and you told me again, I'm probably gonna be like, what are we podcasting again?
I'll be like, why don't you just watch something and I'll watch it too. I don't know. What have you watched on TV lately?
I don't watch TV.
I actually listened to a book today, and I don't even remember what the book was called, but I finally tried Audible's 1.5 speed. And you can listen to double speed, but like...
Oh my god, that's horrible.
I couldn't do 2 times speed. I did 1.5.
Did you listen to Accidental Saints?
Okay.
I'm hoping you didn't waste Accidental Saints by putting it on 1.5 speed.
No, I tried to listen to Accidental Saints on Friday. And so when you listen to an Audible book, it is much different than reading a regular book. It started out with like a hymn choir or something. There were it was beautiful music. It's just
why would they do that?
I don't know. And the opening prayer to it, I don't know if I got the wrong book, but I was just like, this is not the right book to poopy scoop to. So next. Yeah. I was not in the right mind frame to start that book. So,
well, I'm deeply, deeply, deeply disturbed that they would take a great book and jack it up by doing that. Give it a chance to go further.
Okay,
give it a chance to go further.
Ahead.
Yeah, skip to the actual book. Don't.
You're giving me permission to skip part of a book. Okay.
That just makes me mad. It's such a great book. I was reading it again last night, and I was like, oh, this book is so beautiful.
I did try, though. I'll try it again.
Keep trying. Skip the choir, skip the prayer, go to the meat of the book.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess that gets us to our goods, bads, and uglies, which, like I said, this is going to be super fast.
And if you're listening to this, by the time you listen to this, you've probably already learned that Stephen Yeun did not win the Oscar.
Oh, yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Anthony Hopkins did.
But I will say that a friend of mine who is a big movie buff told me about The Father, which is what Anthony Hopkins won for, and I watched a trailer for it. It's definitely on the list because it looks really good.
Yeah.
I'm bummed that Stephen Yeun didn't win, but I mean, it's Anthony Hopkins. It's not like he lost to somebody lame.
Yeah. I mean, he was up against Anthony Hopkins and Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
So you're up against, Anthony Hopkins or...
And Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, who died. So, like, I just... Bad year to be up against anybody. But it's an honor just to be nominated.
Oh, please. That is such a cliche.
I know. All right. Goods, bads, and uglies. I think it is your turn to go first. So
I kind of struggled to find a good, but I think one of the things, I'm not sure, but I think one of the things that I liked about this episode, I liked the way it played on ambiguities. Is Daniel lying? Is Daniel demented?
Mm-hmm.
What's really going on with Daniel? Is Daniel being set up?
So upon my rewatch, I wrote this down. This is why I watch through first and then I go and decide what I want to write down. This stuck out to me. He begins the episode by saying, "Some lies are worth the cost." So when we get through this whole, does he have any sort of dementia or executive dysfunction or cognitive disability, or what's going on? Is it psychological? Is it physiological? Is it like, what's going on? And then somebody's like, I think it was Morgan to June, was like, after he was faking before, like, do you think this is real? And she's like, well, it's really hard to fake. And I'm like, some lies are worth the cost. I honestly believe he still could be lying. And considering he had set up the walkers to get in after the explosion so that he could suss out who, Strand having a gun, and then and I don't know how you would plan this. I mean, Salazar is pretty diabolical, but for Strand to just be like, you know what? Come with us. I feel like that's what Daniel was planning on. Like, he is really trying to get to the bottom of whose side Strand is on. And I mean, the answer is always on both. Like, Strand is always on both sides, and he's just waiting to make his move, Strand is on Strand's side. So yeah, I kind of think he still could be faking it.
That's an interesting take. I didn't really think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really thought by the end of the episode, okay, he really is. I'm not convinced it's not dementia. I'm not convinced it's not the result of one too many whacks on the head. But, I mean, I do think that by the end of the episode, I was convinced that there was something serious going on with him, that it wasn't him just continuing to lie. So that's a very interesting take.
Well, and they did also frame it in, could this be some sort of PTSD that he's finally dealing with? Like, life has slowed down enough to the point that, like, his past is catching up to him. And it's sort of like his brain is kind of, short-circuiting because of everything that he's done in the past. And I actually just saw something the other day on CPTSD, which
complex PTSD. Yeah.
Yes. And I had never heard of this before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like not from one major event or trauma. It's a basically compounded post-traumatic stress from long-term stress and trauma. And of course, the reason why I was reading about it is because of COVID. So, yeah, I kind of think this could be some sort of like CPTSD, or he's faking it for some other reason that we don't know about yet, because they did straddle the line very well, like you said, because he did talk about how he would never have put everybody in jeopardy, and he would have never put Grace into that position, sending her off in some unknown place. And I was just like, but you said some lies are worth the cost. So yeah, this is the same guy who was shaving skin off a dude's arm in season 1. So,
but he does make the point that he set the fire at the Abigail's compound. At Thomas Abigail's compound when he had a break like this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So there's precedent.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I'm not convinced in either direction. Like, I kept going back and forth too. So yeah, very good.
All right, what was your good?
I was really glad to see June back. We had speculated last episode about how they were going to either keep her in the series or reincorporate her, or were we gonna kind of just split our time between, the different factions of people, June being one of them off on her own. And so I kind of like that June is still welcome with our groups of people, in that she's our only medical provider. But I'm really glad, because I like her as a character. I like her as an actress, and I really hope that we continue to see more of her on the show, because I don't think the show could be carried in its current trajectory with the current cast. Don't get me wrong, I love all of the cast, but given the storyline, I don't think that interest could be maintained without June. So I was really glad to see June back in the episode, and I liked the way that they did it, in that in the beginning we don't know who Strand is talking to.
Who you mean? You mean who Salazar is talking to?
I'm sorry. Yeah, who Salazar is talking to, and it turns out to be June, and it's because she's kind of doing a cognitive test, which I have seen many times before. I don't care what Eric Kane has to say. I saw it on a Batman cartoon, so whatever.
It is a thing. We do ask people to remember 3 things that we have said, and then we talk to them about other things, and a couple of minutes later ask them to repeat those 3 things. It's a real thing. Yeah. Person,
man, woman, TV, camera.
Where'd that come from? All right.
What was your bad?
So my bad, and I ranted on Aim for the Heads page about this, so sorry I'm duplicating, but here we are. I get so mad when there are medical inaccuracies in a show, because really all they have to do is throw a couple $100 at a consultant. Hello, I'm free. And we could give decent advice about how to manage medical things in a show that's not medical. A Doppler is not the same as a fetal monitor. A Doppler is basically a fancy stethoscope, and that's what they were holding to Grace's belly. A fetal monitor is a thing that monitors contractions, and it monitors essentially a fetal EKG. Well, that's probably a little more complicated. It monitors fetal heart rate. And if you have heart rate dropping when contractions happen, that is worrisome. So I have 2 issues. I have issues with the fact that they conflated one type of medical equipment to another. I have an issue with the fact that they were like, yeah, we can totally get a fetal monitor. That's what we need. And I was like, you know what? I took training to read that kind of stuff, and I haven't read one for probably 10 years, and I'm not sure I would be really confident reading one now. So for Sarah to be like, we need a fetal heart monitor, I'm like, Sarah, are you going to read it?
Yeah.
Because we don't have June yet, so...
The layman's take on this, too, is also that women have been giving birth for a millennia. And, Grace doesn't seem to be having any abnormal symptoms of a woman who is, 9.5 months pregnant.
Right, I was totally like, that belly is giant. She could pop at any point and it would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if she's having Braxton Hicks, that's a normal thing. There's a reason why there's already a name for it, is because it's kind of a thing that, most women seem to go through before they give birth. Is what Braxton Hicks is the false contractions, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically... Yeah, I'm not even sure false contractions is right. They're contractions, but they're not contractions that are organized that are going to create labor.
Right. And so, I'm like, why is everyone, all distressed about this and that we need a fetal Doppler or whatever? I'm like, okay, no, that wasn't even a thing, 20 years ago, let alone, 1,000 years ago when women were like, I get it. Like mortality rates were a lot higher back a century ago than they are now. But like, we don't need a fetal Doppler. Like, it'll be fine. She'll be fine. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so my thing was just the inaccuracy. It just made me mad. They could have paid a consultant. It made me mad.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
All right, what was your bad?
My bad was like the same as my always bad is whenever we have a horde of zombies that attack. We are more than 10 years into this now. We are in seemingly a pretty good spot, but we haven't built up our, like, your number one defenses are going to be your outer walls are going to be something that have to keep up, like food, shelter, fire, whatever, sanitation, and then go back and build your walls up, like, and do some trip hazards or whatever, so that, like, the zombies can't build up on the fences. And because it's inevitably going to happen that there is going to be some loud noise that attracts every walker within a 5-mile radius. And apparently there's still tons of walkers within a 5-mile radius, even though we are 10 years in. But yeah, I mean, we had lame, sucky walls that, a dozen walkers built up on. And yeah, I get that they disarmed everybody, but they were sitting in an area where there was literally, there's like 3 toolboxes right there. There was at least one red one. I think there were 2 red ones and a blue one. And I'm thinking, like, there were no screwdrivers or anything in those toolboxes. Like, why did we have to use chairs and a handsaw and a paint can? And I'm just like, 5 people were really hard pressed to get rid of a dozen zombies 10 years in.
But at the same time, I watched that whole sequence and I was like, boy, the zombies just aren't that scary anymore.
No, not in those numbers. I mean, yeah, you start building up like 30 zombies, or if you do what we look like happens in the next episode, that, like, you have to go through a bunch of them and they're all kind of snapping at you. Okay, I get. But like I said, 5 people couldn't handle a dozen zombies. Like, seriously, leg sweep them. You'll be fine.
Leg sweep them.
Cobra Kai, sweep the leg.
Too funny.
So yeah, that was my bad, is just that, there's just no tension anymore with some of their zombie setups. So yeah. What was your ugly?
So my ugly was, and I'm going to steal a line from you and the Preacher podcast that we did, Mom and Dad are fighting again. So our heroes are still at each other's throats. They're still at odds. I didn't like it last episode. We're apparently a couple of months later and they're still in the same place, and I just don't get it. Why are they at odds? Why are things so weird? Jenny is gone. Stop.
Yeah.
They have no good reason for being at odds.
Agreed. Like, I get that there could be different settlements, but not different factions,
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I feel like all our people having to lock up weapons because nobody can be trusted, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and the whole thing of them all sitting at the table arguing with each other and bickering and just being generally disagreeable, I was like, these are people who had relationships for many years, and the only thing that really divided them was Jenny, and Jenny's gone. No.
Yeah. And, even people who are new to our group, like Wes and Sherry and things like that, it's like we're not Jenny. We're not Negan. We all kind of have the same goals and the same values and the same morals. So why are we fighting so hard against each other?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just didn't make any sense.
Agreed.
What was your ugly, and was it a good ugly or a bad ugly?
So mine was a good ugly, and I'm very, very sorry for the terminology ugly because it's unfortunate. But Daniel's facial implant, his like self-made facial implant, I really liked that we kind of circled back to that because we've always been like, you know, he was shot in the face, and one, he survived, and two, he seemed to have no bad repercussions from it. And now we find out that, you know, he can't eat anything, it hurts to talk, like he wheezes when he sleeps.
That
like,
was legit the best monologue in the episode,
Yes.
and it was one of the things that I wrote down. It was actually worthwhile. That was actually
Yes.
one of the better parts of this episode.
Yeah, so unfortunately it was my quote-unquote ugly, but it was a good ugly, and that, you know, we sort of dealt with that, and we find out that there are repercussions, and it just added to the whole fact of Daniel's been through some stuff. You know, it is quite possible he is having some sort of break from reality because of everything is catching up to him. And I mean, we even saw that he was reunited with Skidmark this episode. And so, I mean, when you weigh everything that happened this episode, going back to your good, I'm on the fence of whether or not he's faking or if this is real. But the whole implant thing, I was just like, okay, one, that's amazing that like he like made his own implant to make his face look normal. And two, I'm so glad that we have some sort of repercussion for a grievous injury that happened to somebody.
So I want to talk a little more about head trauma on the tail of that. It's not really anything that I had written down, but you know, I had mentioned that he's had several head traumas just in the time that we've seen him.
Like just last episode, we
right.
were talking about.
Right. And so I am assuming, given his history as a terrorist, a freedom fighter, a soldier, I don't know exactly what to call him in El Salvador. Mm-hmm. And then just the injuries that we have seen, he's had some serious head trauma. So there's research that has been done into people who are victims of domestic violence, and there's some research that shows that they have brain trauma from anoxic injuries, from like being choked.
Ooh.
And I'm just wondering, you know, I think about his head traumas, and I think he's had some brain injuries from all of the stuff that's happened to him, which could certainly be a physiologic reason for him to have the symptoms that he is now having.
Well, and you know, there was just another incident of a former NFL player killing, basically doing a mass shooting. Philip Adams, former NFL player, killed 5. He'll be examined for CTE. And it's not the first time, and we are continuing to see a lot more of it. So it is entirely within the realm of possibility that his continued head trauma has caused this mental break.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that takes us into Rotting Potpourri, and we are honestly on track to have the shortest Spiders episode ever. So, okay, I'm going to say it really fast. So I looked at Grace like early on in the episode, and I thought, her belly is way bigger than it was last episode. And then I realized that they were actually using that as a marker to put us forward in time.
Okay.
As a way to tell us, yes, it is a couple of months after the last episode.
Okay. Yeah, they did have some, like, me, like, calculating the time it takes to grow an eggplant to see how long Morgan's been away. They did have some very mature tomatoes.
They did, yes.
Yeah, and they were serving some sort of tomato soup concoction or something.
Which apparently Daniel can only eat soup now, so it makes more sense.
Well, and like, Eugene said, they make stew because it goes a lot further.
Yes.
So, makes total sense. Yeah, I don't think I would have realized that we went forward in time, except for the fact that we have sent Al and Alicia away also, for some unknown reason.
So they could avoid Victor. I mean, I really think it was an excuse to avoid Victor, quite honestly.
Okay.
Because he said, did Alicia know I was coming?
Yeah, that's true. So we really have to stop using the trope of Morgan returns just in time to save the day again. Like, don't get me wrong, I did not want Daniel to shoot Strand. I honestly kind of thought we were losing Strand in this episode. Like,
I did too. I was like, are they going to continue to kill people off?
That look in Daniel's eyes was just like, he's going to do it. And then we hear gunfire and it's like, oh, somebody found the weapons and they're taking care of the walkers. Nope. Morgan arrived just in time to save Strand. And yeah, that was super cool in the beginning when Morgan was riding up and lassoing people and chopping heads off and stuff. But now it's just like, okay, we get it. You know, Morgan's our hero, but...
Oh, which, by the way... Oh, go ahead.
One of these days, he's got to arrive just a second too late.
By the way, because you mentioned Morgan riding up and saving the day, I left this on Aim for the Head's Facebook page also, but I wanted to say it. The horse that Strand is riding in this episode is beautiful. Beautiful. 10 out of 10 would buy that horse.
Oh, that kind of actually makes me, like, of all the episodes to go back, I kind of want to go back and just, like, fast forward to that part, because I actually noticed the horse that was behind Strand, but kind of in front of, but off center of them, that the woman behind Strand, she was like, she had her arm, like, wrapped around the horse's head. She was petting it, and I was like, oh, that would totally be me on set. Like... Just give me a horse to pet. I'll stand in the background.
It's a beautiful horse. Salazar's horse was pretty gorgeous too, but yeah, his horse was beautiful.
Okay, so not only did we get June back this episode, but we also got Skidmark back this episode. And I had been wondering about Skidmark, and I think it's hilarious that they were like, because you know how Ginny separated everyone in our group?
Including Skidmark?
Yeah, she specifically sent the cat on its own mission to de-ratify the bowling alley or whatever.
And apparently Skidmark could do nothing but sit and lick his unmentionables. So
even Skidmark was flouting Jenny. Oh.
Good Lord, I just don't have very much.
I don't either. This was kind of, I said it a middle book episode, a very meh episode. It wasn't terrible, wasn't great.
I agree with meh. I'm not sure that I agree with middle book. It wasn't good enough to be a middle book episode.
Yeah, I feel like it didn't propel our story forward as much as it should have. Like, I feel like a lot of the stories that are told can be told in a much shorter time period, and we can tell larger stories than this, especially with the amount of cast that we have.
Yeah, I just honestly don't have anything else significant to say. I did comment in my notes that the girl who plays Charlie has grown up a ton.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I still, you know, and I think I mentioned this probably last season, I really like that Daniel has taken her on kind of as a surrogate daughter since he's lost Ophelia. Yeah. And Charlie's come a long way.
The only other thing, well, I actually will mention a comment from Jamie Burns that he made for Aim for the Head. Sorry, guys, I'm stealing your thunder. You'll probably publish before we do anyway. But he was like, I just don't want to see, it's totally cool to have two teenage girls who killed people hanging out with everybody. And I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah. Everyone forgets Charlie shot Nick and we forgave her. So, you know, I don't know where Dakota's storyline is headed, but there is a path to redemption.
You too can be a murderous teenage girl in the post-apocalyptic zombie world.
And Carol it'll be fine. Kill you.
Yeah.
That's all I have for
I know.
for
I'm a little
week.
embarrassed we have so little, but guys, this episode was kind of
Yeah. Just a little bite of biters this week.
Right?
Yeah. But that's all I have. Hopefully Diane remembers to watch the Notorious RBG so we can podcast tomorrow.
Legit, I'm going to be like, what are we watching again? I don't know that I'll have it watched by tomorrow. We may be... And I just posted Real Housewives today, so it's not like it's going to be a giant thing if we don't do Real Housewives tomorrow.
Hey, I'm good with not podcasting tomorrow because tomorrow kind of sounds like it's going to be the last nice day for about a week in Juneau, Alaska. Like, it's literally t-shirt weather. I actually laid out in the sun today, and we have a winter storm warning. We're supposed to get 8 inches of snow. Like, this sucks.
And I'm going to tell you, and I made the comment to you before we signed on tonight, I hope like hell that doesn't happen because I finally got my yard semi-clean, and I know you did too, because we have dogs, you guys. It's disgusting in the winter and spring. Yeah, I don't want it all to be snowed over again.
Yeah, no, I pretty much guaranteed that we're going to get snowed because I put the freaking snowblower in the shed.
So it's your fault. So when I have snow, I'm going to blame you.
Yep, it's my fault.
So I blame my handsome dude that all I want to do is eat carbs and drink energy drinks, and I'm going to blame you that we have a snowstorm.
Let it go. All right, everybody. Hopefully next week it does look like a better episode, so we'll have some more for you next week. But until then, just remember, take it one dead day at a time. Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.